All right, so John Ratcliffe, CIA director, huh? I mean, wow. What a wild ride to get to this point.
Yeah, it's been quite a journey, to say the least. Congressman, Director of National Intelligence, and now this.
And along the way, there have been some, well, let's just say some questions raised
hmm
about his record.
Oh, absolutely. Definitely some controversy there.
But before we dig into all that, just a reminder to our listeners, don't forget to like, subscribe, and, leave a comment. We love hearing from you guys.
Yeah, we do. Engagement's what keeps us going.
Okay, so Ratcliffe, born in Illinois, youngest of 6 kids. Parents were both teachers.
Interesting, right? Not exactly the typical background for, someone heading up the CIA.
Yeah, it's kind of like, where did this all begin?
Yeah.
But he went to Notre Dame, got his BA, then on to Southern Methodist University for his law degree.
Yeah.
Ambitious, right?
You can say that again. And it wasn't long before he went from private practice to public service, becoming the mayor of Heath, Texas.
Yeah, that's often the first step, isn't it? For someone with political aspirations, small-town mayor, build a name, see where it goes. And for Ratcliffe, it definitely went somewhere. But there have been these, bumps in the road, like his claims about his experience as a federal prosecutor. He said he has all this experience prosecuting terrorism cases.
But when you dig into it, there's not really any evidence to back that up.
Exactly. And then there's that whole thing about the 300 illegal immigrants he claimed to have arrested in a single day.
Right. That one raised a lot of eyebrows.
Because, the records show his office only arrested 45 people that day, suspected of being in the country illegally. And of those, 2 turned out to be American citizens. Whoops.
Yeah, that's a pretty big discrepancy. Makes you wonder about, his tendency to maybe embellish things a bit.
It does make you think, and that's something we'll be exploring more as we go deeper into his career. Because, for someone potentially heading up the CIA, credibility is kind of a big deal.
You can say that again. It's all about trust, right? And the information you're relying on.
Exactly. So let's talk about Ratcliffe and the Trump administration. Because, he's been a pretty vocal supporter of Trump, hasn't he? Especially during that whole Russia investigation and the impeachment inquiries.
Oh, yeah, very much so.
Yeah.
He was a staunch defender of the president. And, some would say that loyalty is what led to his first nomination for Director of National Intelligence back in 2019.
Which, if I remember correctly, was met with a lot of pushback.
It was. A lot of people, even some Republicans, had concerns about his lack of experience in the intelligence community and his, strong partisan leanings.
Right. They were basically saying, look, the DNI needs to be someone who's objective.
Yeah.
Someone above the political fray.
Exactly. Someone who can be trusted to put the country first, regardless of party affiliation.
And that pushback, it was enough to make Ratcliffe withdraw his name from consideration.
It was. Pretty rare to see that level of bipartisan agreement, honestly.
But then, in 2020, Trump nominated him again for the DNI position.
And this time, Ratcliffe pledged to be apolitical. Said he'd prioritize the integrity of the intelligence community.
But, a lot of people were still skeptical, given his past statements and actions.
For sure. There was definitely a sense of, can we really trust him to be impartial?
And his time as DNI, it wasn't without controversy. He declassified some sensitive information, made some public statements that actually contradicted intelligence assessments, particularly regarding Russian interference in the 2020 election.
Yeah, that raised some eyebrows.
It did, because it looked like he might be using his position to, advance a specific political agenda, rather than upholding those principles of objectivity and nonpartisanship.
Which are pretty crucial for the intelligence community, right?
Absolutely. So we're laying it all out there, folks, trying to present a balanced picture. No opinions here, just the facts. You decide what you think.
Exactly. We just want to make sure you have all the information.
And if you're finding this deep dive interesting, hit that like button. Subscribe to the channel. Helps us out a lot.
We appreciate it. Now let's move on to the present. Ratcliffe nominated for CIA director. That's huge.
Huge is an understatement. It's sent shockwaves through the intelligence community and beyond.
Big time. People are praising his loyalty, questioning his judgment, and everything in between.
It's a pivotal moment, no doubt. What does it mean for the CIA? For the country? Still unpacking this whole John Ratcliffe situation. He was nominated for CIA director, and let's just say the reaction was mixed.
Oh, yeah, the confirmation hearings were a mess. You could just feel the tension. It was clear people had some serious concerns about him taking on this role.
And rightfully so. His background, his ties to Trump, it all kind of raised red flags for a lot of folks.
For sure. Especially that whole thing about experience, right? I mean, the CIA director needs to have a deep understanding of the intelligence world. Absolutely. We're talking about someone who oversees all 17 intelligence agencies, coordinating their efforts, providing the president and policymakers with objective assessments. It's a huge responsibility.
Huge. And if there's even a whiff of partisan bias,
Right.
it throws everything off balance.
You got it. It undermines the credibility of the whole intelligence apparatus. You start getting into situations where intelligence is being selectively presented, maybe even manipulated to fit a certain narrative. And that's a dangerous game to play.
Yeah, no kidding. I mean, we need accurate, unbiased intelligence to make informed decisions, especially when it comes to national security.
Couldn't agree more. That's why Ratcliffe's nomination was so controversial. And then there's the whole 2020 election debacle. You remember that?
Oh, yeah, how could I forget? The declassification of that Russian disinformation.
Right. The whole thing about Hillary Clinton supposedly approving a plan to link Trump to Russia. I mean, that was a bombshell.
Except the intelligence community had already flagged that information as unreliable. So why did Ratcliffe declassify it and release it?
Yeah, a lot of people believe it was politically motivated, trying to damage Clinton, help out Trump.
Which kind of feeds into that whole concern about him being impartial, right? Is he acting as a neutral arbiter of intelligence, or is he pushing a political agenda?
A lot of people, Democrats and Republicans alike, questioned his judgment after that.
And now he's being considered for the CIA, the agency that's all about secrecy, covert operations, and, well, let's be honest, sometimes operating in a legal gray area. That's a pretty scary thought for a lot of people.
Yeah, I mean, think about it. Someone who's shown a willingness to use intelligence for political gain, now in charge of the CIA, that's a recipe for disaster.
Exactly. It raises all these questions about the potential for abuse, for targeting political opponents, for manipulating intelligence to justify certain actions.
Not to mention his leadership style. I mean, the guy's known for being abrasive, combative.
Yeah, not exactly the best approach when you're dealing with the complexities of intelligence work.
Especially in an agency like the CIA. I mean, they rely on collaboration, trust, nuanced analysis. You can't just bully your way through everything.
And imagine trying to build relationships with foreign intelligence agencies when your boss is out there publicly antagonizing their government. Not exactly a recipe for smooth cooperation.
Not at all. And then there's the whole issue of his credibility. I mean, he's got this history of making unsubstantiated claims, exaggerating his accomplishment.
Right, so how can you trust anything he says? How do you know he's separating fact from fiction?
And in the intelligence world, that ability to discern the truth is absolutely essential. It's the foundation of everything they do.
It's like he's on this tightrope, right? On one side, there's the need for objective intelligence, preserving the CIA's reputation as a nonpartisan entity. And on the other side, there's his loyalty to Trump and his willingness to push that political agenda, even if it means bending the truth.
So which side will he fall on? That's the million-dollar question. And it has huge implications for the CIA, for the intelligence community, for the country. It's a fascinating case study, really.
It is, and it's a discussion we need to be having. So listeners, if you're finding this as thought-provoking as we are, leave us a comment. Tell us what you think. And if you're enjoying these deep dives, be sure to subscribe. We've got plenty more where this came from.
All right, let's dive a little deeper into Ratcliffe's political ideology. He's considered one of the most conservative members of Congress. Strong views on immigration, on China, on national security.
Views that often align pretty closely with Trump's.
Yeah, absolutely. China, for example. He's called them the biggest threat to U.S. and global interests, even advocated for stripping them of the 2022 Winter Olympics.
Yeah, over their human rights abuses against the Uyghurs and that whole COVID origin cover-up.
Right. And on immigration, he's been a hardliner. Supported Trump's travel ban, pushed for stricter border control measures.
So if we're trying to predict how he might lead the CIA, these are all pieces of the puzzle.
They paint a picture of a hawkish worldview. Emphasis on military strength, willingness to confront adversaries head-on. And that could have a significant impact on how the CIA operates under his watch.
Okay, so here we are, John Ratcliffe, potentially at the helm of the CIA. It's a lot to take in.
Yeah, no kidding. And as we've been talking about, it's not exactly a smooth transition. People are worried, and for good reason. I mean, Ratcliffe's style, his whole approach, it just doesn't seem like a good fit for the CIA.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. The CIA, they've always prided themselves on discretion, on being analytical, nonpartisan, Operating in the shadows, carefully gathering intelligence, presenting objective assessments.
It's not about flashy pronouncements or scoring political points.
Exactly.
No.
But Ratcliffe, well, he's shown a different approach, hasn't he? More confrontational, more politically driven.
Like that whole thing with the Russian disinformation, it seemed like he was more interested in using that information to help Trump than he was in, actually protecting national security. And that kind of behavior can be really damaging to an organization like the CIA. It undermines their credibility, makes it harder for them to do their jobs effectively.
Especially when it comes to building relationships with foreign intelligence agencies. Trust is everything in that world.
Right. If you can't trust the information you're getting, if you're constantly wondering if there's a political agenda at play, it makes cooperation almost impossible.
And let's not forget about the people who work at the CIA, career intelligence professionals who've dedicated their lives to serving their country.
A lot of them are pretty wary of Ratcliffe. They see his political leanings, they remember his past statements, and they're not sure what to expect.
It's going to take a lot of work to build trust with those folks, to convince them that he's there to support them, not to use them for his own purposes.
Yeah, he's got a tough road ahead of him, no doubt. And then there's the whole geopolitical landscape. I mean, things are pretty messy out there right now.
Terrorism, cyber attacks, the rise of China, Russia flexing its muscles.
Wow.
It's a lot to juggle.
And the CIA needs to be nimble, adaptable, strategic. They need to be able to anticipate threats, respond quickly, and make sound decisions under pressure.
So can Ratcliffe handle that? I mean, does he have the experience, the temperament, the judgment to make the right calls?
It's hard to say. He's a smart guy, no doubt, politically savvy, knows how to play the game.
But is that enough? I mean, the CIA isn't a political playground. The stakes are way too high.
You're right. And we can't forget about the potential consequences if things go wrong. Misinformation, botched operations, damaged relationships.
It could have a ripple effect across the globe.
It could. So yeah, it's a scary thought. Ratcliffe in charge of the CIA. But it's also a fascinating case study, a real test of leadership, of the balance between power and responsibility.
We've laid out the facts, folks. Now it's up to you to decide what you think. What do you think this means for the CIA, for the country?
Leave us a comment. Let's keep this conversation going. And be sure to subscribe to the channel for more deep dives like this one.
We've got a lot more to unpack in the coming weeks. But before we go, just a quick shout out to all of our amazing listeners who've supported our Standing in the Gaps podcast.
You guys are the best. Seriously.
Your donations to our GoFundMe campaign are helping us upgrade our equipment, reach a wider audience, and keep bringing you the high-quality content you deserve.
We're so grateful for your generosity. It means the world to us.
So thank you for listening, for engaging, for being part of this journey with us. Stay curious, stay informed, and we'll see you next time.